Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. It's race number 7, halfway through the regular season, for another road course adventure for these drivers. Daytona, a couple of weeks back, we found that of Brian Johnson getting the victory. Well, tonight, we're at Watkins Glen for the Watkins Glen 150 to see who can conquer the final road course of the season and potentially lock themselves in to the playoffs. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is going to be that of Brandon Robinson, and Robert Moyer is going to be our producer for tonight's evening. Brandon, road course racing once again, and we're seeing a lot of front runners being extremely close to one another.
Yeah, we really are. And, a lot of times when you get these leagues on these road course races, there's usually 1, 2, maybe 3 guys that are really sticking out. And then as you go through the relative and the standings, the times really start to drop off. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Looking at the relative so far in the practice session, all these guys are within a second of each other or close to it in the top 10, top 12. So I think it's going to be a really close race. And I know Zach Hall's coming in here as the favorite, as a lot of guys are talking, but on the road courses, all it takes is one mistake. And with these guys being so close in timing, I don't know if we can point a favorite right now.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult because Watkins Glen here for the NAISCC Cup Series. This is season number 4, and this is the only 3rd time in all 4 seasons that these drivers have come to that of Watkins Glen. The first time they were here for season 1, Brandon, it was 74 laps for that race. They've trimmed it down almost each time that they come out here. But for that race, it was actually Vincent Sora who got the pole position, and then it was Tom Sinchek getting the victory. Their second time here was that of season 2, where Vincent Sora got his vengeance, got the win over Tom Sinchek. Then the drivers stepped away from Watkins Glen for season 3, but we're back once again to finish out all the road courses that have been ran this season. And again, all eyes on Zach Hall because he was not here, nor was Brian Johnson here for the Watkins Glen races as they all came in during season 3. So there's a lot of competitors out here that are getting a first taste of Watkins Glen in this season and series. So they're excited to see what type of talent is going to be coming in here tonight for 60 laps.
The other guys, Zach Hall, Brian Johnson, that you mentioned might not have been around, but you did note Vincent Sora going back and forth with Tom Sinchek, and they're in the practice session so far, heading into qualifying. There was Vincent Sora on top of the board, so he might be trying to show these newcomers here, at least for this season, hey, you guys did really good on the other road courses. You're having good seasons, but Watkins Glen, this is my track.
Yeah, Watkins Glen, certainly. Vincent Sora, always going to be a strong competitor and looking for his first victory of the season as he comes in 5th in points. As hitting the track for qualifying, we're going to ride on board with the 5 machine of Dakota Moniz, as this is your Simbox Store qualifying session for these drivers. They're going to be having 10 minutes, to put down one of the fastest laps. They only have 2 laps to do so. But, Brandon, we were kind of talking about this before we went live about how qualifying back at the Daytona road course, there were some drivers that had some issues of going off course or, getting a little loose and burning up their tires, and the iRacing deeming it as getting too much help. But drivers, they've got to be concerned not to get any incident points as they're trying to put down their fastest lap here for qualifying.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And there were some drivers that had some really good, a really good run at the Daytona road course, but like you said, because they picked up a 1X on both of their laps, none of them counted. Therefore, they did start towards the back of the field when we went green. And so I think it is going to be very important for these drivers to learn from that experience, even if that means that maybe you're going 95% instead of 100% qualifying, making sure that you're avoiding the off tracks and laying down a lap and putting yourself in a better position here, because tonight we are doing stage points. There is going to be a stage break, if you will, at lap 25, but we're not throwing that caution out here. So these drivers aren't going to have that luxury like we see through the rest of the series. It's once that green flag drops, we're going all the way to the checkered. So qualifying going to be very important here tonight at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and track position, very important. Again, only 60 laps, like Brandon just said. End of lap 25, going to be end of stage 1, as we're seeing Dakota Moniz and many others starting to finish their first lap of qualifying. Time-wise, still about 7.5 minutes left for these drivers, so plenty of time for them to be getting, for some drivers that feel like, hey, let's wait. Let's try to see what the times are like, and then I'll try to put my best time out there. As drivers that are putting down their first times currently, it's going to be Mark Whitley and that of Max Foner going to be your top runners, as Dakota Moniz is going to be the slowest of our first 5 putting down their times, as you saw the 5 going a little bit off track. As we move now to the Hello Kitty machine, the 13 of Cedric Hunter, our Season 3 champion of the NAISCC Cup Series, as Cedric Hunter going to be trying to go for his first win of the season as well. But when you come to road courses, Brandon, we've noted on, a lot of those fast runners. For this 13 team, it's been a lot more about consistency and just trying to get a top 5 to a top 3 finish. Might not always be a winning car, but always seems to be consistent. That's why he got the championship last season.
Yeah, and we've really seen this 13 car fight through adversity these last couple of races, especially last week. There was a few drivers, but notably Cedric Hunter, who had an up and down night. He had some really good runs. I can't remember who he was working with, somebody else through the field, but they were up towards the front, and then they went to the back, and then up to the front, to the back. They kind of had some adversity there last week, but when it was all said and done, the 13 car putting himself in a pretty good position and taking home some points. So I think Cedric Hunter is really just trying to put together that full race from green flag to checkered, making sure that he kind of avoids those mid-race bumps that he's had.
Oh, yeah, as Hunter is going to be putting down that first lap, going to be putting him 5th on the board. And that other driver you were talking about was Tom Sinchek that they worked with last week. Both qualified 21st, 22nd in the field, and they were able to climb their way through to then finish both inside of the top 10, with Cedric Hunter finishing in 4th. As we now move to the 19 of Patrick Hernandez, and Patrick trying to get a good solid finish for this 19 team that has missed a couple of races so far this season. And I was looking at the standings there, Brandon, before we went live, and kind of taking a look at where points are for these drivers, as only the top 16 drivers get to move on unless someone has won outside of the top 16 and they're in the top 20 of points. Then they'll take that final spot. But looking at the points, 16th place back to 23rd in points. Though all those positions, only 19 points is the difference between all those drivers. That can be changed by stage points, where you finish. And this is past halfway, starting here at Watkins Glen. So the pressure's on for all the drivers that are close to that bubble line. They need to run consistent, even though we're at a road course. But these next couple of racetracks these drivers are going to, it does not get any easier from here on out.
No, it really doesn't. And right there at that 16th spot, Dakota Moniz and Mark Whitley are actually tied with 146 points. Ahead of them in 15th, Thomas Green, only a 9-point advantage. But behind them, you get James Loveland with 144, Adam Westfield 143, and Thomas Walter 141. And then it kind of starts to drop, 5-6 points after that. So there is a really tight race there for that 16th spot. And the people that are inside that cusp right now obviously aren't even safe. You just said it right here at Watkins Glen. We're a little bit over halfway through the season. There's a lot of guys that could struggle here tonight and be able to go back and say, well, that's where I lost my playoff spot, was that week. And on the flip side, there could be some drivers that said, hey, wow, I surprised myself. I had a really good race at Watkins Glen, gained a ton of points, and that's the reason why I made it into the top 16.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be all about that consistency for themselves, as we see the 2 of Danny Cochran hitting that course. And now this is going to be the 2's first lap that he's going to be putting down. Danny Cochran in the 2 coming in, looking like a very consistent driver for most of this season. I think a lot of that has to also translate with how well the 2's been running on Monday nights for the NAISCC Race Car Graveyard Truck Series that these drivers run. The 2's been finding a lot of speed there. And once you're winning races in other leagues and series, I mean, that confidence really does translate to all the series that you're at. Even if you were struggling previously, when you build that momentum throughout the week, it is always nice to know that, hey, I'm going to carry this momentum into every series I go to.
Yeah, and we're on board right now with the number 2 car, and watching him run this lap at Watkins Glen, this guy is fast, and you can tell that he's dialed in here tonight. And you're right, it doesn't matter if if you're in the truck series, you're running multiple series. All it takes is that one night for things to really start clicking, to be able to take that momentum through different series. And we'll see if Danny Cochran can continue that momentum here tonight. So far, he's got a top 10 time with a 112.84. So that's what we were talking about at the beginning of this, with some of these guys that had struggled at the last road course in qualifying. Tonight was going to be important to make sure that you got in that top 10, top 15. And right now, Danny Cochran sitting in that 10th spot, sitting pretty good.
Well, we got about a little bit under 2 minutes to go in qualifying. 21 drivers have put down a time. Zach Hall and Donna Vincent Soar going to be your front two that both have an extra lap to put down, but I think they're both going to stay with where they're at. The drivers we're waiting on to see if they are going to try to attempt, but most likely are not going to attempt. Tyler Dangler, Sean Hutzstutler, Ryan Lewis, and James Tremmel. Those 4 drivers deciding not to put down a time here tonight, meaning they're going to be starting at the tail end of the lead lap at the start here. And gotta say, Brandon, a bigger field than I was expecting. With 20 minutes until qualifying started, there was only about 20 drivers that were here. A couple of more have trickled in at the end, but hey, I gotta say, it might be a smaller field than what you've been seeing, but still a lot of strong drivers up front that are battling, and a lot of them still looking for their first win this season.
Yeah, 25 cars joining us here tonight, and when you look at the qualifying times right now, you already said it, only 4 drivers choosing not to get a qualifying lap in. When we were at the last road course, I felt like there was really only about 15 to 18 cars that did do a qualifying lap. Totally different here. 21 cars choosing to go out for qualifying. Nobody of those 21 got a 1X, so they were able to lay down a complete lap. And if you take a look right there at that 21st spot, with Jesse Thornock with a 114.74, only 3 seconds off some of the top guys here at Watkins Glen. Zach Hall sitting there at top with 111.81. Now, 3 seconds on the majority of this circuit is a big deal. But at Watkins Glen here, if you're only 3 seconds back, again, I'll reiterate there, all it takes is one mistake, one off track, one time getting into the grass, and that 3 seconds, you're right there to attack on another driver's mistake.
And now all the drivers' time has come to a close. That means it's race time. 60 laps these drivers are preparing to attempt. And again, stage break on lap 25. At the end of lap 25, the top 5 will get bonus points. As we take a look here at your Simbox Store qualifying results. Simbox Store, you really push our buttons. If you're looking to get yourself a Simbox that is also connected with iFlag software, go to eBay and look up the Simbox Store. Some of the best Simboxes that you can get out there. Thank you so much to Simbox Store. You really push our buttons, as well as Track Racer, Refined Gaming. We'll talk more about Track Racer and plenty other sponsors later on. But Brandon, taking a look, it's Zach Hall, top of the board by 2/10 over that of Vincent Sora. Mark Whitley's going to be getting third with Tom Senchek in fourth. Cedric Hunter in fifth. Top 5, all within about a half second for one another. Then it's Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, Max Foner, Maurice Gilmillion, and Danny Cochran going to be your top 10.
Yeah, and right outside the top 10 looking in, we got James Loveland in 11th, Patrick Hernandez 12th, Ryan Bird 13th, Ethan Smith outside of row 7 there in 14th, Jonathan Pittman in 15th, Dakota Moniz in 16th, Kyle Rochelle all the way back in 17th, Martin Morales Jr. 18th, Aaron Krolick 19th, and it's going to be Trevor Earhart rounding out our top 20.
Then it's going to be Jesse Thornock's going to be finishing out in 21st. That of Tyler Dangler going to get 22nd. Sean Hutzstutler in 23rd. 24th goes to James Tremmel. And finishing out our 25 drivers racing here tonight, it's the rookie Ryan Lewis in the 41, going to be your 25th driver. As the drivers are gritting up still, Gives us time to give big thanks to all of our amazing sponsors. We're just noted on Track Racer for a quick second there. They're our title sponsor for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. And if you're looking for the cutting edge design engineering, well, they give you the competitive edge, offering you anything from racing rigs, flight simulators, essentials, or even monitor stands. They offer it all. And also, if you're looking to get a wheel, Track Racer has that as well with that of Simicube. Track Racer, they have everything that you need to begin or complete your rig here today. Track Racer, refined gaming. As well, big thanks to that at Uniformities. If you're looking in the Jacksonville area for some of the best of that of medical scrubs or essentials, Uniformity has got you. Then they are also provided by that of Baptist Health employees. Uniformities, scrubs, embroideries, or even custom apparels. They've got you covered at Uniformities. As we'll touch on more amazing sponsors throughout the night. But Brandon, they're going and getting this warm-up lap down. Pace trucks leading the way, going up through the S's. Probably the most dangerous part of this track at the early goings of this course the drivers have to worry about.
Yeah, especially the S's. It's uphill. People are going to be wanting to carry as much momentum as they can. Of course, here at Watkins Glen, they did patch in a little bit of more grip for these drivers through the S's in various parts of this track. So we're going to be looking at the S's. We're going to be looking at the part they're coming up to right now. That's called the bus stop. After the bus stop, it doesn't stop there. There's going to be a carousel. And as these tires start to wear, that carousel could play a really big factor in lap times and who can be most consistent through this carousel. And then on the back half of that, after the carousel, you can kind of take a deep breath. You have a short left-hander with a short right-hander before going down that long front stretch, going down into turn one, which is also going to be emphasis here tonight, making sure that you're staying consistent through your braking zones.
Yeah, you touched on, the short left and right-hander that these drivers have the final two corners at. These are still, yes, they're short. Yes, they're little breather moments, but at the end of the race, you can still see some late moves being made here as we're coming up to the final two corners of the course before we get going green. Again, a big thanks to all of our amazing sponsors, that of Track Racer, Simbox Store, McConey Setup Shop, ButtKicker, and Uniformities. And we are excited to get back to racing action Saturday night. It's the best place to be here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name's Sam Dyer, Brandon Robinson, Robert Moyer Jr. We're all ready for Watkins Glen Road Course Racing. Pace truck is off and green flag in the air. The Watkins Glen 150 is green as Zach Hall, like a rocket ship, is gone. And here they come, three wide into turn one for second place. Cedric Hunter being aggressive as they go through turns one and hoping that everyone survives. Brandon, a very aggressive move early on from these drivers.
Yeah, it was, but all three drivers aware of the situation. They were able to make it through there. The most important part is if you're going to do a move like what Cedric Hunter did and kind of dive down there on the inside, you better make sure that you can keep it tight in that corner, and that's exactly what he just did.
All the drivers able to make it through. Tyler Dangler deciding to start on pit road, but up front they're all single file and going through the bus stop, able to get through very cleanly so far. Everyone in line, staying patient in lap number one, but everyone recognizing you're going to have to make some moves if you're starting further back. And some of those drivers that are further back that I'm expecting to get some great movement, Kyle Rochelle back in 17th, a very poor that of a qualifying run for this one machine, expecting him to move forward, as well as Trevor Earhart back in 19th. Those two drivers outside of the top 15, expect them to try to make a surge when we get to that of our stage break to hopefully be up to that in our top 15. But a car goes off. You see him in the dirt. That's the double zero of Ethan Smith for a quick second. He's back on track as Zach Hall leads lap number one.
Yeah, Ethan Smith with just a little bit of an off track there. It looks like just a little too hard on the brakes and maybe the downshifting too as well. And it wasn't instigated by anybody else around him. So I'm assuming those two factors came into play there, but no other cars are involved. He didn't take any real damage, and he's already back out onto the track.
Back out on track and up front, you're starting to see Mark Whitley. That's still hounding at the back bumper of the 15 of Vincent Sora. Sora, again, still looking for a win here in the Cup Series. Didn't get it last season. Still looking for his first win this season. And We've seen the 15 be very competitive and strong during Season 1 and Season 2 of the NAISCC Cup Series, but ever since Category 5 has shown up, it seems like bad luck always is striking this 15 team. So he's looking to finally break that curse, get a victory here today, as Zach Hall still running up front by about 4/10 over the 15.
Yeah, the 77 of Mark Whitley sitting there in third. We called on him a lot last Saturday. He was running in the top 3 as well. So the 77 car of Mark Whitley, a little bit on a hot streak here. Vincent Sora up there in second, yet to lose that position. And he still has Zach Hall there. Zach with a beautiful start on lap 1, but since then, these cars have been really keeping it tight. The 13 of Cedric Hunter, he went 3 wide down turn 1, and I think that just goes to show with not having a stage break here, going 60 laps, drivers know they cannot allow Zach Hall, Vincent Sora to get out of their windshield.
And also the thing to give note is Monday night, we talked about the truck series and how we saw Danny Cochran really getting into his groove of recently. Well, also Vincent Sora and Mark Whitley, they have been having a boiling rivalry that just continues to grow. So I would not be surprised if that translates over here to Saturday nights, where we see maybe Mark Whitley or Vincent Sora maybe give a little bit of a bump and not a lot of room to one another.
Looks like we got James Trammell too, going off track there down into turn 1. Nope, just a bottom out there, which, oh no, he did go off. So that's the 20 car with a pretty big lick. That seems to be just a 1-car incident there that I'll try to keep the viewers up with at home as much as possible. It doesn't mean that we'll always switch back to it, but if it's something as hard as James Trammell just went through, I'll at least mention it for you guys who are following your favorite drivers here tonight. They might not always be up to the front of the pack, but I'll try to keep you guys updated as much as possible, as there are no cautions here for 60 laps.
Yeah, another driver that's was starting to move forward and fell back a couple of positions. Nick Crawford thought for a second he was going to be making a power 2 moves, but then lost it off the exit of turn 1 as the front runners are going through the bus stop, as you're seeing all on top of one another. And, you know, something that we're going to note on a lot is the fact that some drivers really excel in the first half of this course, and others really prefer after getting out of the bus stop and that second half of this course where they seem to be a lot faster. And that's why we're going to be seeing a lot of give and take on how close these drivers are to one another. But Brandon, I mean, we were looking at the times earlier on as Nick Crawford actually goes off course into the grass for a quick second there. This 11, it looks like in these first 4 laps is really heating up those tires and struggling currently for our Daytona winner.
Yeah, I'm quick to join back onto the track, though. He doesn't lose that spot to Max Foner. And adding to your point, some drivers doing really good, you know, in certain halves of this track. I'm interested to see the drivers that do really well throughout the entire race. Maybe they're really good through the first half, and then as we start getting, you know, lap 40 and beyond, who's really going to be able to keep the consistency? Because right now, with it being a road course, turning left, turning right, hitting your braking zones, a lot of these drivers, assuming they have a load cell pedal, it's a lot of work to go into a race like this, especially with these stock cars. And 60 laps may not seem like a lot for you know, a lot of people, but here in the stock cars, this is dang near an endurance race here tonight.
Oh, absolutely. A beautiful pass by Mark Whitley over Vincent Sora. And now we look for the battle for 4th. Cedric Hunter leading his former teammate, now ally, Brian Johnson. But after last week, Brandon, I don't know if they're allies anymore, because Brian Johnson giving a bump to Cedric Hunter to get the win at Dover last week.
Yeah, and of course, my partner there talking about the last lap, last turn, altercation between those two drivers. The 28, oh, no. The 13 getting a little bit sideways there. Able to save it, though. A great save by the 13. Now, he's going to lose a ton of track position here, Sam, but certainly could have been a lot worse for Cedric Hunter.
A great showing of the grass is not your friend. Got a little bit of the front nose into the grass. The tires trying to hit the brakes into turn 1. Got loose, but luckily did not get into the wall. And also of note from last week, this league has implemented no more fast repairs. So if the 13 had gotten into the outside wall, would have had to deal with that damage all night long.
Yeah, and that's going to play a big part here for some of these drivers because it's very easy when you hit that grass or you hit the curb. in a way that you're not supposed to, your car is going to get sent. And there's a lot of steel barriers here. This isn't like Road America where certain parts of the track can be wide open, and or even Daytona Road Course as well on the infield part of it. Watkins Glen basically surrounded by these green barriers there. So they got to be careful with that. Also down in turn one, it's important to note for the viewers at home, Watkins Glen adding that huge runoff down into turn one. As long as you're not touching the grass, you can use just about as much of that runoff as you want to in turn one, and that's going to save a lot of drivers here tonight.
Oh, absolutely. You just want to make sure that you are able to get onto the brakes as we're riding on the back bumper and getting a sense of Nick Crawford hounding that of Tom Senchak, the 8, doing a great job. Second in points is that of Tom Senchak, and currently second, in points with a lot of consistency and trying to continue with that consistency, running in 5th position, which 5th place might not seem like, the strongest running position, but is the last spot for the drivers are going to be getting any type of stage points here. Again, stage 1 comes to a conclusion at the end of lap 25, and only the top 5 get those stage points.
Well, right before that carousel, and even right now, things are heating up for the lead right now. Mark Whitley has moved up to 2nd place, and Zach Hall providing a little bit of space for himself. But just a moment ago, the 77 car was almost on the inside of the 32. So Whitley making his way around Vincent Sora, and right now, I mean, just as close as you can get to Zach Hall through the last part of last lap.
Well, Brandon, I'm looking at the fastest laps that have been put down. Fastest lap was put down by Mark Whitley, but that was back around lap 2 of today's race. For the 77, he's still putting down some very quick times as we look at the best lap times that have been put down all today on our ticker. But I'm getting concerned for the 77. We're still early in the first about quarter of this run that these drivers are going to be on. Is the 77 trying to maximize his early run for this quick setup instead of the long runs that we're going to be seeing as these drivers can go about 30 laps on fuel?
Well, and that's a very good point right there. But right now, the only thing he's thinking about is chasing that big Fanatec logo that's on the back of the 32 car right now, and you'll worry about fuel and pit stops later. And as soon as Mark Whitley got past Vincent Sora, now we see these top 2 drivers up here almost running away from Vincent Sora and the rest of the field.
As they continue to run up, we're going to stay on board with this battling action. Want to give note, though, James Tremmel has been falling back, having issues as well. Want to give note for Jonathan Pittman, who had issues coming out of the bus stop. The 21 extremely loose on the entry of the carousel and losing ground. But as you can see here, the times for our leaders and the way that they've been bouncing back and forth, you saw a massive gain for Mark Whitley on lap 5. But ever since he's got that massive gain, Brandon, there has not been a lot of gaining. It's been kind of staying pretty even on these last couple of laps.
Yeah, it really has, and maybe especially up front here with Whitley, it looked like he was really trying to take a stab for the lead for about 2 laps, and I think he realized, okay, I'm keeping pace with him, but maybe I don't have enough right now to make the pass. And so instead of burning up his tires and burning up his fuel, like you said, and kind of beating up his equipment, I think he has kind of taken a step back here in 2nd place.
Also, you can kind of tell the kind of intensity that the 77's bringing into this race. We noted on the fact of points that was being thrown out, on the fact that Mark Whitley is tied for that 16th position in points. So he needs to make sure he either gets a great point stake or wins to make sure that he's locked into the playoffs. So that's why we're seeing the 77 getting a little amped up and aggressive, as this is only his 5th start of the season. He's missed out on 2 races so far. So Mark Whitley trying to make sure he could stay in playoff chances here, as you're also seeing Brian Johnson getting by that of the 8, moving forward as well as a driver that we were given a note to watch out for, that of Max Boner, doing a great job in 8th position.
Right now, so far, we gave you guys a poll at home watching on YouTube. 3 votes so far, Sam, all 3 of them for that 32 car, Zach Hall. So definitely a crowd favorite here tonight, and putting in work here as he started pole, and he still holds down that top spot.
Oh, absolutely. And if you'd like to join into the poll, see who will win tonight's race, it's going to be. We got 4 different options to put down. Mark Whitley, Zach Hall, Vincent Sora, or someone else that you're going to be thinking about putting down that could win today's race. And the fact that, Zach Hall is the top runner. No surprise, he was the favorite coming into tonight's race.
Yeah, and look, I mean, he's known as the road course ringer here, Zach Hall, and this is his first time here at Watkins Glen with this bunch, but he ran a phenomenal race at Daytona Road Course. Brian Johnson already up 3 spots as well. He was one of those drivers, I believe, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but at Daytona Road Course, wasn't he one of those drivers that struggled in the qualifying session and had to kind of make his way up through the field?
That was Zach Hall.
Okay,
sorry,
that was
Zach that struggled. And then
Okay.
Brian Johnson qualified incredibly, got the pole position, and never looked back.
Okay, so I need to flip those back then. So Zach coming in saying, hey, what happened at the road course was a fluke. And Brian Johnson, of course, just doing Brian Johnson things.
Yeah, and if we look back to that Daytona Road Course, Zach Hall qualified back in 9th, finished 2nd in that race, was 7 seconds back from Brian Johnson, and
That's
put
what it
down the fastest lap by almost a full second over Brian Johnson. So the 72 was extreme. I mean, that of the 32, extremely quick back when we were for our 4th race of the season at the Daytona Road Course. And also of note, the 32 won every single road course race last season. So there's a lot of hype around Zach Hall, but still see Mark Whitley keeping it close, but now we're starting to see a little bit of separation as Mark Whitley, I think his time to make that pass might have been snuffed out here in the first 12 laps of the race as Zach Hall continues to just run consistent laps and slowly pulling away, but Brian Johnson is gaining on our leader.
Yeah, he is. Mark Whitley falls to almost a half second behind Zach Hall, and as you were talking there, Brian Johnson was over a second behind Zach Hall, and now he's only a 0.8, so certainly making the time. And with Mark Whitley falling off pace a little bit here, we might have a race for 2nd place.
Yeah, we might have that for sure as we see the battling currently going on. Trevor Earhart, Kyle Rochelle for 16th position, and going through the S's. Kyle Rochelle, one of those drivers I thought we were going to be seeing really climb his way through this field just because of the speed this one has had at some of the other courses. Might not be a favorite to finish in the top 5, but always a threat for the top 10. Was moving forward quickly in the first 3 laps, then got shuffled back, and has been continuing, it looks like, has burned off those tires too soon, now falling back into the clutches, as well as some of the other drivers further back here. You've got that of Martin Morales, in the 24, and behind him, Sean Hutstetler, that are having their little duel to see who's going to be in the top 20.
Yeah, Kyle Rochelle kind of just hanging around there in that 17th spot. He's been passed by Trevor Earhart, Aaron Kralik, and going back to Martin Morales and Sean Huffstutler. Sean's up 2 spots, Martin down 2 as well, and unfortunately we saw what happened to the 0-0 of Ethan Smith. So right there in that 21st with Sean up there, he's got about a 5.5 second lead over Ethan Smith, so that's really going to allow him and Martin Morales to kind of battle it out for that 20th spot.
And also some of the other drivers that we're seeing back here of note that had issues. Tyler Zangler, who started on pit road and slowly made a couple of passes on other drivers that have misfortunes, such as James Tremmel and Ryan Lewis, both have fallen back and have lost a lot of ground on our front runners. And speaking of our front runners, Brian Johnson has made the pass for 2nd place and now is in 2nd, seeing the eyes of Zach Hall. And when Zach Hall looks in his mirrors, it's got to be a little trippy looking back and seeing Brian Johnson, because the face that's on that hood, it's actually Cedric Hunter's face on the hood, and everyone else's face is scattered around this 28 machine.
Yeah, a little bit of a, you could think of that as a little bit of a mind game, right? Of course, it starts off as a meme, trolling, having fun with the other drivers, but the closer he gets to the 32 and he's taking a look back in his mirror and he just sees this big old face slapped on the hood of Brian Johnson, it certainly could be a little bit of a distraction as these guys make their way through the S's. So Brian Johnson, though, up 4 spots, and still some ground to gain on Zach Hall, but he's doing it pretty quick here, only 0.6 now behind the leader.
Yeah, Brian Johnson is tied with the biggest movers of the night. Other drivers that are tied with Brian Johnson, Eric Kralik, as well as Trevor Earhart, they're both back in 15th and 16th position, up 4 positions as well, doing a great job. As we look at the last lap that was put down, It was that of Zach Hall that was about 0.3 faster, but with how long this course is, a little bit under 2.5 miles is the distance for these drivers. It's all about consistency and making sure that you get into a rhythm, as well as worrying about that tire wear, as drivers currently right now already a full 2 seconds off. A full second off of what their best lap time was.
Yeah, and consistency is going to be just so key here, because a lot goes into road racing with these stock cars. It's braking zones, it's downshifting, engine braking, making sure that you're using the extra grip strips, I call them here at Watkins Glen, making sure that you're planting 2 tires on those grip strips. And as the race goes on, number one, that's a lot to focus on mentally. So you got to make sure your mentals are still in the game. Physically, you got to make sure that you're not, maybe some of these guys start turning the force feedback down a little bit.
Sorry, a little bit of contact for third place is Mark Whitley. That of Vincent Sora making contact in the entry of the bus stop. Sora making the pass, but already a little bit of vocal frustration. Mark Whitley made a late block down in front of the 15, got a bump on the entry of the bus stop. Luckily, everyone stays stable, but you're starting to see that little bit of group, and the longer this run, we've been great for 15 laps, the aggression and frustration and tempers, they're starting to flare.
Yeah, and Vincent Sora kind of winning out there, right? He's now got that little bit of a gap over Mark Whitley. But yeah, that got sketchy there, and you see 5 drivers all there. That's when that focus is really going to come into play. It's a double-edged sword. When you're out there by yourself, you tend to start getting stuck, right? Or daydreaming or thinking of too much. Right here with this group of 5, it's going to get a little hairy, especially as we go through the S's and the bus stop. That got a little too close to comfort, I think, for some of those drivers.
Oh, absolutely. I thought for a quick moment there we were going to see Mark Whitley just get pushed completely off into the grass. Well, here, we'll give it another try. A lap ago, contact between Vincent Sora and Mark Whitley. Will Mark Whitley pay respects here into the 15? Not close enough to do so, and I think at this point, everyone's just trying to survive, as the tire wear is going to become bigger and bigger of a factor as this run pulls on, as we're halfway through this stint for these drivers. Again, around lap 30 is when we were given the drivers might be thinking about coming into pit road, for that is as long as they could go. I think it was 30 to 32 is the window we were given, but these drivers also going to get a little antsy because they want to make sure they're in the top 5 for those stage points that are about 10 laps away.
Well, and they're going to start getting antsy too, because as we've seen here so far tonight at Watkins Glen with the current gen cars, it's very hard to get a run that enables you to pass. You almost have to rely on the car and driver in front of you to make that mistake. We have a long straightaway here on the front stretch, and then a long straightaway after the S's, but both of those straightaways lead into very, very hard or awkward parts of the track. I'm talking about the bus stop, of course, to where if you get a good run in the draft, there's just not enough stretch there to really make a run with it. And I think we're going to start seeing some drivers who are bunched up like this start getting a little impatient, and they might start diving a little bit too hard.
Hey, got a bumper. Are they going to use it? As Mark Whitley, a great entry through the bus stops, but thought maybe for a second there that Nick Crawford might think about getting a little aggressive and maybe give a bump to the 77 on the entry. Was not close enough, and through the carousel. Got to give credit to the 77. Great run for himself. The bus stop through the carousel. He is pulled away from Nick Crawford.
Yeah, really good run there. Vincent Sora still hanging out there in third. He's kind of hoping that the 11 and the 77 can get into a little bit of a battle to be able to create even more space for him. But right now, pretty much single file out here on the track, as these drivers now seem like they are pretty much dialed in and focused on this long green flag run.
As now we take a look at the drivers up front, Zach Hall, Matt O'Brien Johnson, still within a couple of tenths of one another. But, we were noting on this earlier with Mark Whitley and Zach Hall, it was almost identical lap times, but Brandon, they are drastically different against one another lap to lap.
That's one of those things that, again, I'm going to beat this word up like a dead horse, but consistency. All it takes is one corner, one bad bus stop, one bad carousel for things to really start opening up. And when this race continues to go green, as it will, you're going to have to start driving your car a little bit different. Tire wear is going to come into play, and that means at any given time, somebody could have a really bad lap, somebody could have a really good lap, but it's just about making sure you have more of the latter and making sure you're taking care of business on your own end.
It's so interesting just looking back to last week at Dover during the driver's interview when we went to Victory Lane, talked to Brian Johnson. We asked about him how he was going to react with coming to this road course. Could he sweep the road courses? He said the one man he had to beat was going to be Zach Hall. That's all his focus was really on. And right now, on lap number 19, Brian Johnson going to be right at the quarter panel, side by side through the S's. Here comes the 28. Going to be side by side. Zach Hall gets a little bit loose, and that's the opportunity that Johnson needed. To the lead is the 28 of Brian Johnson as they go down the backstretch.
Yeah, a beautiful turn one by Brian Johnson, which led to a ton of momentum off of turn one, going into the S's there, really cutting off Zach Hall from being able to take that inside line at the start of those S's. Because of that, Zach Hall was thrown off his pace there a little bit, got loose, and just a beautiful strike from the 28 car of Brian Johnson.
But Zach Hall not giving up through the carousel. Great center of the carousel and off. Going to be staying right on the back bumper. And he's going to be now going into that of the second to last corner. Will we see the 32 try any aggressive moves here to get back up front? Will he just let that Brian Johnson go? Because Brandon, lap traffic now going to be a factor here as drivers inching closer. Sean Hutstetler into pit road. So that's not going to be the first lap car for our leaders. But they've got to be careful as Ryan Lewis is going to be the first lap car who goes into turn one as their leaders are coming in now.
Yeah, and we talked about, or you talked about that pit window maybe opening up around lap 28, lap 30. I think if you throw in these lap cars that our leaders are coming up on, that could change the dynamic of when these drivers choose to come down pit road. Even if you got the fuel or the tires, but you know you're about due for a pit change, instead of dealing with that lap traffic right away and putting yourself in a sketchy situation, they may choose to just come down pit road before hitting the tail end of this field.
I don't know if we have the replay, but Sean Hutstetler seems to be out of the race. Issues for the 94 as we're going to take a look at what happened to be ending the night. Our first DNF of the evening going to be that of Sean Hutstetler, and it looks like it's the danger zone that I was talking to some of the drivers beforehand. The exit of turn one. This is probably one of the most dangerous places if you have a lack of focus. As you see here, gets onto the rumble strips and hard into the inside wall.
Yeah, maybe a little too quick, either on the exit there or just coming in a little bit too quick on entry. But, you know, I always talk about this with stock car racing on road courses. It's so important to allow your car to settle before making a move, and that could be turning, that could be getting back onto the accelerator. You really want to make sure that these stock cars are settled because they're not meant to be driven on these road courses, and they can be a handful out there. So I think that's what we saw there, and unfortunately, like you said, he's going to DNF back to pit road as he took the tow. Now during that replay, I also noticed Ethan Smith had a little bit of a incident through the carousel right in front of the leaders. Now he was nice enough to kind of just lay off onto the side there, but that's what we were talking about. As these drivers make their way through lap traffic, everything matters, and even these lap cars are going to have to make sure that they have 100% focus.
Yeah, and for the lap cars, they've got to pick and choose where they want to place themselves to get out of the way, as well as, you know, you got the lead lap drivers. We've had our front seven all on top of one another, so with a lap car, they can become a pick and helping out our leaders make a pass, and they've also could be a factor that could ruin your chances of moving forward. So everyone trying to keep themselves neat and tidy as we take a look at some of the drivers further back in the field. Ryan Bird, as we see here, running in 11th position, and for Ryan Bird, qualified up in 13th position, up only 2 spots, but consistency, I think for a lot of these drivers coming into road courses, for some of them, it's just get a top 15 finish or get a top 10. That's all they're looking for.
Well, I'll tell you right now, as Brian Johnson is really starting to drive away from Zach Hall, going back to the lap traffic for just a moment, when they see their blue flag come up on their left corner there, it's tricky because a lot of times you want to move up out of the way and give that leader the preferred line. However, one of the best things that you can do, especially on road course racing, and you hear it all the time, no matter what kind of series you're running, be predictable. If you're on the preferred racing line and they're, 5 seconds, 3 seconds back, okay, you got time to move up out of the way. They're going to be able to see that. But if you're on the preferred racing line and they're only a second behind you and gaining, stay on that line. Be predictable and allow the leaders to know, okay, he's going to be on that line. I'm going to have to take this one wide, go on the outside. That's the number one thing when these leaders start coming through the lap traffic. Number one, if there's enough time, ease up, let them by or check up high. If there's not, stay in your line, be predictable.
Yeah, and that predictability, I mean, that is one of the things that is, I think, gets in the head of a lot of lap traffic when they're further back and they just see the closing rate of the leaders on them. It kind of spooks them and scares them when they look in the mirror and they're like, oh, leader's there, I got to get out of the way. So it's got to be a little terrifying for them, as well as we've got ourselves 3 more laps to go, coming up to that of the end of stage 1. Again, do want to give note, there will not be a yellow thrown when stage 1 is over. We'll just give note of who's in the top 5 at that time, and the drivers continue to race under green flag racing throughout this whole entire race, as because of how spread out the field is, even if a driver gets themselves into trouble, there will not be a full course yellow thrown unless we see the whole entire, S's blocked off. I think that would be the only reason that there would be a yellow thrown for tonight's race.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's the case here tonight, but I do know some leagues on other nights, they will turn off the incident count so that if you get an off track here or you do have to get an off track to avoid a situation like what you're talking about, you don't really got to worry about that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Through the S's, if they get clogged up, I've seen cautions at the bus stop if it gets clogged up and it does interfere with some of the drivers that are on the lead lap. But you very rare will you see a caution get thrown here on the stock cars and get everybody lined back up.
Yeah, you were wondering about that of the incident limits. There is no limits that were going to be for these drivers. That has been removed for tonight's race. So the drivers are good to go off course whenever they feel like it. As a great pass by that of Nick Crawford up to 4th, and that of Mark Whitley continuing to fall back. Now Mark's going to be in that 5th place position. But for how long, as we're coming up to the white flag of stage 1, and Cedric Hunter is right on the tailpipes of the 77.
Yeah, Whitley falling off a little bit there. I was just noticing who was in the top 5 about a lap ago, and now Nick Crawford makes the pass on Whitley, and Cedric Hunter was like a second and a half off. So I had just assumed, okay, Nick Crawford, Mark Whitley, they're going to get the top 5 bonus points. But here we are now, as you just pointed out, the white flag, if you will, one more lap before these bonus points come into effect, and Cedric Hunter has a good shot of chasing down Mark Whitley.
Yeah, you look at the times, your top 4 all kind of spread out enough, but it's this 5th place position, 1 bonus point. That 1 point could define if you're going into that of the playoffs or not. And that's why we're seeing Mark Whitley fighting so hard to get this 1 point, because he came into tonight's race tied in that 16th position, and he wants to make sure he's at least in the top 15, because Thomas Green, our winner from Atlanta, did not show up for tonight's race. He had other things that were going on tonight, so we were not able to see that of the 31 showing up for tonight's evening. But because he won at Atlanta, and after tonight's race should still be in the top 20 of points, he would advance based off of his win, pushing back whoever was 16th in points out of the playoffs. If that's where all the drivers lie, it's going to get very confusing and mixy on where drivers are going to be, on who gets wins and who's not in the top 16 as the regular season continues to progress.
I don't think there's a driver out there that wants a green flag pit stop more than the 77 of Mark Whitley. He's doing fine now, and he's still a very fast car out there, but he is one of those drivers that has been in the top 5 that seems to be struggling just a little bit more than everybody else that's in front of him or behind him. So I think the 77 of Mark Whitley, who, by the way, did just pick up some bonus points. He did finish that lap in top 5. He may already just be thinking to himself, man, I need to get down pit road. When are we all coming down?
Yeah, I think whoever really of our top 10 to top 5, whoever comes into pit road first is going to start that domino effect. Again, those top 5, Brian Johnson with the win, Zach Hall, Vincent Sora, Nick Crawford, and Mark Whitley going to be your top 5. They get bonus points here tonight. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be the drivers coming into pit road. We'll see who makes mistakes, who doesn't, and where the drivers lie when they come out of pit road. Thank you so much for joining us here for Saturday Night Racing for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. We'll be right back here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting.
To be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Freaky Fast Broadcasting is presented by ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. And Makoni Setup Shop. There are setups, but they're your victories. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us Saturday Night Racing, road course racing here at Watkins Glen for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. As we're seeing pit stops underway, we give it over to you, that of Brandon Robinson.
Yeah, a lot of these guys coming down pit road now. Zach Hall, Cedric Hunter, Mark Whitley. The leader, though, Brian Johnson, deciding to stay out along with Tom Senchek. It really started, though, with Vincent Sora, he was the first driver to come down. And interesting enough, we were talking during the break, these drivers are going to want to make this a one-stop race. And you see these guys are doing just fine as we're 30 laps in. Vincent Sora, though, coming down on lap 29. It's going to be cutting it, Sam, towards the end of this race.
Oh, absolutely. That is going to be the big thing for Vincent Sora. My name is Sam Dyer, Brandon Robinson, and Robert Moyer Jr. running productions and cameras for us here tonight. But these pit stops, very important, but they have only made it to lap 30. For the drivers that are making it to lap 31, such as that of Brian Johnson, these drivers are going to be feeling extremely confident that they can make it on fuel all the way to the end of this race. It's drivers that made it to 30 or came in on lap 29 that I'm very concerned. How much fuel have they saved, and do they feel confident that they can make it to the end of the race, or will they be a full lap shy for making it?
Yeah, so just to echo that, we know Brian Johnson stayed out to lap 31. He's going to be cruising to the end of this race. Now, it did seem like as far as tire wear goes, everybody was pretty much on even par with one another, except maybe Mark Whitley. He did struggle there a little bit, and then during commercial break, I think he did lose 2 spots. So he's probably, again, before we went to break, he was really looking for that pit stop. He got it, but now he's going to have a ton of work to get back up to where he was. I mean, at one point, he was up in second place, Sam, fighting for the lead. And then before those pit stops, he was all the way back there in 6th.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is now you're back in traffic, and you got to worry about it, how well can you move forward, as we still have, and you see the 51, Max Foner leading this raid. Ryan Bird's going to be in that a second place. Both these drivers still need to come into pit road. James Tremel's going to be another driver that's to come in, as well as Ethan Smith and Ryan Lewis, both of our rookies back at 23rd and 24th. But of our front runners, it's Max Foner, Ryan Bird. All eyes are on them. When will we see that of the 49 coming to pit road? But Vincent Sora, Brian Johnson currently trying to make the pass for that second place position, and they're all on top of one another as Max Foner comes into pit road. But with Vincent Sora coming into pit road back on lap that of 29, not the worst decision for this 15 team. I could see their thought, undercut, try to get in front of Brian Johnson. It just didn't work out. Came up to be 3 car lengths shy of making that pass. And again, of note, we were told that the drivers can go 30 to 32 laps on fuel, so Sora should be good in theory. It's all about, though, how much fuel is he truly burning off each and every lap.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to how big of a lead Brian Johnson had before these guys came down for their pit stops. Vincent Sora, I would assume, thought hey, I'm in complete control of this race now. I'm going to take over this lead when Max Foner comes down. And then there was Brian Johnson right there. We saw him make the pass onto Vincent Sora. And again, already extending his lead to almost a second with 2.2 seconds over third place driver Zach Hall.
It's so crazy to look at the differences that have been put down. And, for Zach Hall, tried to, gain time on some of these drivers. But I think also it comes into how aggressive were they entering and exiting of pit road. This is one of the trickier spots of getting out of pit road just because of how narrow the exit is, and also you're turning to get out of the pit exit. So for a lot of these drivers, could have been a place where you lost a lot of time if you weren't as aggressive as some of our front runners are, as Brian Johnson is up front and pulling away already.
Yeah, over a second now over Vincent, still around that 2-second mark with Zach Hall, 11.5 seconds over fourth place driver Nick Crawford as him and the 77 of Mark Whitley. Our single file Cedric Hunter still in 6th. So it's good to see after the pit stop, though, Mark Whitley get that top 5 status back for him. We'll be able to see if he can make a move on Nick Crawford. But right now, almost 12 seconds behind Zach Hall, sitting in 3rd. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, and we're going to be falling back to the battle for 15th position, as you have that of Kyle Rochelle and that of Trevor Earhart. Closest battle on track currently for position is these two drivers. And right now, Trevor Earhart tied with the second biggest moves of the night, up 4 positions for himself in the 25, trying to get by the 1 of Kyle Rochelle. But we're already seeing some of the drivers further back, up front. We're seeing a lot much of a cleaner exit out of turn 1. And I think that's really where we see the big differences of these drivers that are battling up in the top 6 and those that are battling back here for the top 15 position. of the ways that they exit out of the corner compared to some of these drivers that are up front.
Yeah, it's very important on road racing that they say slow in, fast out. And that doesn't mean that you're a turtle, going into your braking zone, but you really do want to set yourself up to have complete stability in your car and to give yourself a chance to get on the throttle sooner on exit. So it's very important to keep that mindset. Slow in, fast out. We see it in turn 1. But as strange as this may sound, it's the same way through the S's, which follows turn 1. It's not necessarily that you're braking through the S's. No, you want to be on your throttle as much as possible, which means you need to have a clean turn 1 to be able to set yourself up to be able to hit those S's as best as you can, as fast as you can.
Absolutely, and that's where they're going to be finding a lot of that speed for the backstretch that can set you up for a pass entering the bus stop as we ride up front with Zach Hall. And you also see a lot of the drivers that are here dangerously close to left traffic. Pittman going to be spun in front of that of Hunter, contacting to Mark Whitley. Hard damage to the 77, and that was coming right out of our second to last corner. Oh my goodness. Lead lap drivers and also those that are lapped down. Oh boy, Brandon, that is when things are at its trickiest, when you get everyone packed up like that.
Yeah, and especially at that part of the track, there's not a whole lot of room to give through that last left, last right, where we saw that just take place. Now we'll see the 77, of course, he's going to fall all the way back to 7th, but now I'm concerned. It doesn't look cosmetically like he's got a whole lot of damage, but we'll see how he fares through that as our first big wreck of the night happens here on lap 35.
And now Thompson Jack and Cedric Hunter are going to be battling against one another. Jonathan Pittman, who was involved in that, was back in 21st position and is limping that 21 around. And at this point, for the drivers that have already pitted, unless it is extreme damage that you cannot turn or you're told that you need to get required damage done, a lot of these drivers are not going to be coming into pit road as they've already done their final money stop for the night. 25 laps to go. And Brandon, I mean, you look at where the drivers are at currently. Zach Hall did make the pass for second place over that of Vincent Sora. But I got to say, throughout the whole entire field, been seeing a lot of consistent driving, which kind of, besides that incident with Pittman and a couple of other incidents that happened in the first 5 laps, there's been very clean racing, kind of similar to what we were seeing back last week at Dover, besides, the contact for the lead pass for the lead from Brian Johnson and Cedric Hunter.
Yeah, and to put that into perspective for people that are watching, Brian Johnson, our leader, his last lap was a 1:13.05. Back in 13th, James Loveland was a 1:13 as well. So that was my point that I was trying to make at the beginning of the broadcast, was you always have those 4 or 5 guys up front putting in really good times, and then you start seeing those times drop off dramatically. I'm talking 5, 8, 10 seconds. But to your point, so much consistency here tonight, all through pretty much the entire field.
Yeah, everyone's still on track. We've only had one official DNF, that being Sean Hutt-Stutler. And for the 94, coming off turn number 1, hard contact into the tire barriers on the inside, and then called it a night. Again, these drivers do not have a fast repair. They did in the first 5 laps of the race. In front of our leaders, Ethan Smith did exactly what Sean Hutt-Stutler just did, and almost taking out Zach Hall and Vincent Sora with them.
Yeah, the 00 going down into turn 1 there, and he just got a little bit loose into the grass, trying to hang on to it. The car hits the wall, bounces up to the middle of the track, but he threw it in reverse, got out of the way of Nick Crawford and Cedric Hunter. So a good job by the 00 to consider his surroundings, took a look at his relative and said, hey, I need to, as soon as I can get control of this car, I need to back it on up, and that's what he did. So a tough break for the 00, but a very smart move to avoid any heavy damage.
Yeah, and, right there, very similar to what happened to the 94, and luckily did not involve anyone else, but now Ethan Smith, he's in trouble of possibly being passed by for position by that of Ryan Lewis. As we look back up front for the battle for second, Vincent Sora still keeping it close. Again, we look at some of the laps and when drivers came into pit road, Vincent Sora, one of our first drivers to come in. Then a lap later was Zach Hall. Lap after Zach Hall, Brian Johnson came to pit road. So we're starting to see how the drivers are lying based on when they came into pit road and the freshness of their tires. But I'm curious to see how Vincent Sora is going to be able to react. Former winner of this course, but Zach Hall, our favorite coming into the night from that of Newport, North Carolina. Zach Hall doing a great job, running in second, came in as our favorite to win tonight's race. But honestly, at this point, I think a top 3 finish, and at least being in second, losing out to his former teammate that has won a road course already this season, Brian Johnson, it's not the worst thing that can happen, especially because Zach already knows he's won and he's already locked in with his win that he got back at Auto Club.
Yeah, it looks like barring any, maybe Brian Johnson making his way through lap traffic and getting stuck in that or making a mistake. I mean, he's got a 4-second lead on Zach Hall. So right now it's really a race for second with Zach Hall and Vincent Sora. Nick Crawford said up there fourth all by himself. He's had a pretty good run. And then back to 5th and 6th, Cedric Hunter and Tom Sinchek. Cedric goes off track right now. He's going to forfeit that position to the 8 car of Tom Sinchek. They had a nice little battle there, and I think Cedric felt the pressure of the 8 behind him, and he actually goes off track and gives up a spot.
It's not the first time we've seen the 13 go off course, but we are now, coming up to lap 40 with 21 laps to go. And I got to say, we noted on it, this track could be feeling like a little bit of a marathon at times. And when you're this long into a course, it's a little bit under 2.5 miles in length for just one lap. And doing that for now 39 laps, that is a lot of focus you're putting in as we ride on board with the 8 Tom Sinchek as he enters the bus stop and going through. Very technical this course, that little bus stop kink is. It could really, you can ruin your day or make one of the most amazing passes if you're right on it through the carousels, the 8 machine. But you can see in the top right in the mirror, the Hello Kitty machine still looming behind Tom Sinchek.
Yeah, it is one of the most technical parts of this track, and one of the biggest keys to making your way through the bus stop is really making sure that you go in there with more speed than what you think you should have to carry through there. If you want to be up to the top like these guys, you are really flying through the entry of that bus stop, and that takes a lot of focus and a lot of concentration. And I've seen a lot of guys hiccup on that, and they try to cut it as close as they can and actually hit the safety barrier that's there. But most certainly one of the most technical parts of the track, because it does involve carrying a ton of speed through a very tight space.
That it does. It really, you've got to be precise almost every single time. And a lot of these drivers, it's incredible to see how many times they are able to stay that precise as he's right on board with Ryan Bird. Currently running in 12th, he losing 1 position from the last time we saw that of the 49. And while that was before we had our pit cycle, Ryan Bird currently in 12th place, up 1 position for himself. And we look at some of the other drivers that have been moving forward. Danny Cochran's up 1 position, Patrick Hernandez right in front of Ryan Bird up 1 position. And then even further behind, you've got that of Dakota Moniz up 2 spots. Trevor Earhart's up 5 positions. You've got a lot of drivers making their big moves forward. The biggest mover so far, James Tremmel back in 18th, up 6 positions. And that's even after his big spill that he had in those first 8 laps of the race.
Yeah, but unfortunately for these guys, starting there with Trevor Earhart, he's 10 seconds off Dakota. So that's really when the second group starts to split. Is back there with Trevor, Kyle Rochelle, Aaron Kralik 17th, James Tremmel, you are right, up 6 spots. He's had a pretty good run here. And a lot of times we talk about moral victories. I'm not a huge guy on moral victories, no matter the sport, but here on a road course, and we probably dabbled in this at Daytona, a lot of these guys are just trying to finish the race, maybe gain some positions, keep learning the road course racing. And, like for guys like that are in the 49, Ryan Bird, he's only 4 seconds off of a top 10 here. And drivers like that, if they can sneak into a top 10 here at Watkins Glen out of their comfort zone, I mean, that is just a huge feeling for some of these guys.
It's so interesting that you're not really for moral victories. That's something I'm always about. There's certain drivers, this is for some drivers, this is their first time ever doing a league race on iRacing, or for some of them first time doing a lot of this racing. For some drivers, they'll take, any type of victories that they can take. I mean, it's building blocks for some drivers, but it makes sense for the guys that are up front, that are battling for a championship. Yeah, those moral victories really don't mean much, but I think for the drivers that are further back, they'll take anything that they can get, especially knowing, hey, it might take me some time to get to where these drivers and where their pace is at.
I think one of the biggest things, too, about road course racing with stock cars, whether it's Cups, trucks, ARCAs, etc., you always get a handful of drivers. They always give you the same old spiel. Well, stock cars aren't meant to race on road courses. I'm not looking forward to this week. I wish I could take a drop week. And then they go out there and race. And after the race, they're like, wait a minute, that was really, really fun. In fact, I've had some drivers who were relatively new to road course racing, and after the race, they're like, you know what? That was some of the most fun I've ever had on iRacing. So I guess, maybe if I was a fan of moral victories, the one I would be the most fan of would be the drivers who look at road course racing as a very ugly part of the schedule and really turn it into something to where they get excited. They put in extra practice laps. They start getting better and better. So I'll give you that as far as moral victories go. But that's one of the biggest things I love seeing are the drivers who are like, oh man, a road course, I don't want to do that. And then it turns into, I can't wait for the next road course.
I think that practice, I think that's where drivers get that switch. So, they get that dread maybe at the beginning of the season, but once they put that practice and they get the help from those drivers that are putting down the really fast laps, they get the tips on, this is what you're supposed to do in those really tricky spots, and then it finally clicks for them. But we love those moments. It's right on board with 51 and Max Foner trying to catch up and make the pass on Mark Whitley. Again, Mark Whitley dealing with some damage after contact with the 21 of Jonathan Pittman about 8 laps ago. So this 77, who was at one point battling to potentially take the lead in our first 12 laps of this race, now just hoping to hold on for a 7th place finish.
Yeah, we saw that, before the pit stops. The 77, Mark Whitley, was really, really good on the short runs here at Watkins Glen, but it may just take him that extra effort to be able to be competitive up here in the top 3, top 5. And because of that, I think he starts burning his tires off a little bit more than others. We see a little bit mistake there on corner exit. He got into the grass a little bit, got loose, and here comes the 51 of Max Foner down on the inside of turn 1. Oh, and he overdrives it.
Overdrives, makes contact immediately on the radio saying sorry. He take the position back as they continue to stay side by side. And behind, it's the 00 once again into the inside wall, into that of James Tremmel. Tremmel sneaks by, and whoo, 2 very sketchy situations out of turn 1. But up front, for that of Max Foner as well as Mark Whitley, they got to be careful making doing too much damage, especially for the 77, who is, again, no fast repairs, but could get in a position where he could get some required damage that he has to be forced into pit road to repair.
And I went back and looked at that replay twice when the 77 of Mark Whitley got into his wreck, and I can't believe that he didn't have any required repairs or that his steering wasn't messed up. Looking at a couple different angles, he T-boned a guy with his left fender right there on the corner of it, and it was pretty hard. So I'm amazed right now that Mark Whitley hasn't even had to come down pit road for repairs, but I do think that damage has really affected his race car. You still have, you have the long straights here. He's losing speed, losing power on the straights, and I'm curious if he has even just the slightest damage to his steering, and maybe that's why he's fallen 4 spots back to 7th.
Yeah, Mark Whitley's going to be hoping for a little bit of a breather, and Zach Hall, he's going to be hoping for one as well. Pulled away by over a half a second, almost a full second over Vincent Sora. But as the run has continued on, starting to see the 32 losing ground, falling back to the clutches of Vincent Sora. And this is battling for 2nd place that we're watching currently as the 22, Tyler Dangler, kind of just watching the action as the other front 2 pull away.
Yeah, it really is. And but here's Vincent Sora now in the 15 car. It looked like Brian Johnson up to a very comfortable lead. It looked like Zach Hall, who had made the pass on Vincent Sora about 5 or 6 laps ago, looked like he was really going to run away with this second spot. But that 15 car of Vincent Sora, a previous winner here at the Glen, hanging around there. I think he might have had a bad last turn, which has allowed Zach Hall to get this buffer that he's got now. But before that mistake, he was right there within a second of that 32 car.
It was right there, and then through the whole entire first half of this lap, Zach Hall has found another gear and is completely went from being within 2/10 was Vincent Sora to now being a second and a half back from the 32 machine. Zach Hall recognizing it's time to go, as the gap between himself and Johnson going to be 5.3 seconds. And as Zach Hall gets a little bit of a breather now with the gap that he's got from Sora, we're going to take a quick breather here from Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you so much for everyone joining us here for Saturday night racing action for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. We're here at the Watkins Glen 150, and we'll be right back to finish out tonight's race, where Brian Johnson currently is dominating. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting. It is Saturday night, Watkins Glen 150, here for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series. Currently, it's Brian Johnson leading by over 6 seconds over that of Zach Hall, Vincent Sora in second, Nick Crawford in fourth, and Tom Sinchek in fifth place, as we find ourselves with 12 laps to go, coming to 11 laps to go. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Brandon Robinson, as well as Robert Moyer running Productions. Brandon, we've been watching this race. The first, you'd say, about 15 laps, it was dominated by Zach Hall. But ever since then, it has been the Brian Johnson show, our Daytona road course winner from earlier this year, trying to sweep the road courses if he gets the win here tonight.
Yeah, Brian Johnson, he started P6, so he had to work his way up through some traffic a little bit. And at the beginning of this race, I mean, these guys were bumper to bumper up here in the front. So it took Brian good 15, 16 laps to get up to the front. But once he took the lead from Zach Hall, he hasn't looked back. We see now a 6.8 second advantage over Zach Hall. Vincent Sora, 6 seconds behind Zach Hall, 12 to the leader. So, but he's in a comfortable spot, Sam. He's about 7.5 seconds in front of Nick Crawford. So I think this stage in the race, with coming up on 10 laps to go, I know a lot of people say we don't race for points, we race for wins. But in this situation, Brian Johnson, Zach Hall, they got a stranglehold on first and second. Sora also with a huge advantage over Nick Crawford. He might just be playing it safe from here on out. Pick up the podium, pick up the points.
Yeah, Vincent Sora coming into tonight with that of 5th in points and was the second highest of the drivers that have not gotten a win so far. Cedric Hunter leads those drivers currently in 3rd in points. So trying to have a consistent run is the 15 machine, and still looking for his first win in quite a long time in this Cup Series. It was all the way back in Season 2 when Vincent Sora got his last win. As we take a look for the battle that's currently going on for 5th place, it's that of Tom Senchak, Cedric Hunter. Hunter, again, our biggest, of the points, that has not gotten a win so far for this 13 team. A lot of adversity. Almost got his first win last week at Dover, but then got pushed out of the way with 15 laps to go. Ryan Johnson gave the bump, finished top 13, and said, hey, I'll take that lead and I'll take the win, as the Hello Kitty machine would finish 4th for that race. But right now, trying to find himself to finish in the top 5 is that of Cedric Hunter. But Tom Senchak doing a great job defending currently in the 8.
Yeah, I mean, these guys linked up last week's race, and here they are linked up now at Watkins Glen, Senchak and Hunter. We'll see if Cedric can get a little bit of a run on the 8 car. But, talking about momentum, it is a long season. We are entering the back half of the season, and these would be 2 really strong finishes for the 13 of Cedric Hunter, but also for Tom Senchak.
Yeah, and you hear rumblings through, talking to all the drivers throughout the week of, different allies that have been building up, or just friendships building up. And, for that of Tom Senchak and Crawford, they've been working with one another. You saw the 21, though. Pittman gets loose out of turn 1. I believe he might have hit the water barrels, but I'm not going to be certain on that. The 21 heavily damaged and involved in another wreck for himself. I believe that was the 3rd time Pittman has gotten out of control here tonight. 9 laps to go. Luckily out of the way of the other drivers, but concerned for this 21 and seeing if he could limp his way to the end of the race.
Yeah, didn't hit the barrels, I can confirm that, but certainly losing a ton of time. He's back there in 22nd right now, and we start getting to this stretch now to where some of these drivers are probably going to be looking forward to the end of this race.
Oh, absolutely. And what I was talking about before, for, allies that have been being built up throughout this season, Tom Senchak, Cedric Hunter, and also Zach Hall, I think maybe even Brian Johnson, they've been talking about working with one another for endurance racing. So makes sense to see the 8 doing so well and kind of running very similar to the 13 here tonight as everyone continues to race on. 8 laps to go as we take a look at Danny Cochran, who is running currently in 9th position. And the 2, been a quiet night for himself, but being in the top 10, still a very solid run for himself.
Yeah, he was very dominant in the practice session. It didn't cross over into qualifying, unfortunately for him, but he did qualify P10, which we noted was a good starting point for the 2 car. And maybe not having the race that he wanted, but to come out of here with a 9th, again, anybody who's finishing in the top 10 here, probably going to call tonight a success.
Yeah, Danny Cochran comes into tonight 7th in points, has gotten a top 5 yet this season. But if he does finish where he is currently right now, would get his 4th top 10 of the season. As we move up, check on our leader. Still a bunch of lap traffic to worry about, and that's going to be the most dangerous thing right now, Brandon. 8 laps to go, and you are never safe as the leader, even with the lap traffic in the way that they've been trying to get out of the way or stay a lot more of, predictable for the leaders to get by. It is never safe at a road course when you're a leader, especially late in the race.
Yeah, and look, the 28 car, Brian Johnson, he didn't have to deal with it there. The 41 kind of let off and allowed Johnson to not only make the pass, but gave him plenty of room to then go back up high onto the track so that he can cut down turn one the way he wants to. But the biggest thing making your way through lap traffic here is if these cars do stay in the preferred racing line, like we talked about midway through this track, Brian Johnson, he might have to make some passes on the outside. He might get put into some uncomfortable positions making his way through lap traffic. So as much as these guys are being nice and getting out of the way, it's still something to consider that, whether you're taking a different line or, you're waiting to get back onto the straightaway so you're not running as fast as you're used to. All those things matter here, trying to make his way through lap traffic.
Just trying to stay patient as the gap has continued to grow, now up to 7.84 seconds is the difference between that of Brian Johnson and Zach Hall. I was looking back at all the previous Watkins Glen races. They've ran here twice this season, twice in the 4 seasons that has been around. For season 1, they ran for 74 laps. Season 2, they did 60 laps. They did 60 laps again here for season 4. Did not run during season 3. But Brandon, looking at that the last 2 times they've ran, the difference between first and second for those first 2 races has been about 11 seconds for both races. And the way that the pace is going, could see a very similar thing here tonight. 6 laps to go as Zach Hall finds himself struggling to get by lap cars. We could see that trend continue even for this 3rd attempt at Watkins Glen in this series.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's at 8 seconds with Zach Hall in second place, making his way through the carousel. Brian Johnson now on that first left-hander, the first of the last 2 turns. 8 seconds, it seems like a mile, but I'm telling you, if Brian Johnson gets caught up in some lap traffic or he loses focus and hits the grass and spins out, Zach Hall has put himself at least in a position to where if Johnson does make a mistake, the 32 car could be right there to strike for first.
He's always going to be trying to figure out how to strike. And speaking of striking, for 5th place, that pass side by side now confirms Cedric Hunter up to 5th. Tom Sinchek kind of giving up that position, tried his heart out to defend with 5 laps to go. The 8 figuring, hey, it's better just to let you go on by instead of me trying to stop you, as they've caught up now. A little bit over a second is the difference between Cedric Hunter and that of Nick Crawford ahead. That is the battle for 4th place. So we could be seeing the 13 trying to finish in 4th 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, by the way, Nick Crawford driving for Magnitude 9 out there. We haven't talked about him a whole lot, but quietly putting together a nice little race for him. I think Vincent Sora in 3rd is 5 seconds ahead of him. So unless if Sora makes a mistake, 4th might be the best that this 11 can get, but quietly just had one of the more consistent races here tonight.
Yeah, he's been quite consistent, but he's got to be a little bit concerned. I think there might be an issue for the 11. That last lap, almost a full second off of what that of Cedric Hunter was running, and you could just see the gap dwindling away, and the closer the Hello Kitty machine is getting, as Nick Crawford ducks it high, Magnitude 9, late block, now going to be ducking it low, defensive moves by the 11, and now going to be blocking himself in between Tom Sinchek and that of Cedric Hunter, as, oh boy, Nick Crawford having a little bit of internet issues for himself, and as well, it's going to be the 13, ducking it high.
What a good save by Cedric Hunter. I know he loses the spot to Tom Sinchek, but that 13 car was way off track there, sliding sideways, what we call a passenger slide, and to be able to save that and get back on track in front of Nick Crawford, what an awesome drive and an awesome save by Cedric Hunter.
I mean, right now, for that of Hunter, he is now got to recover and try to move forward again. And same thing for Nick Crawford, got to try to recover and start moving forward. But I think the 11 in much worse trouble than what we thought, as he's got a little bit of damage on that front right side as well, right on the front bumper of the 11. So he's dealing with some front end damage, still chugging along and trying to get a top 10 finish for himself, as that of Cedric Hunter right now recouping after that slide, and now he's got to try to get a little bit of redemption as Sinchek, a little bit of that rear end sliding around, got to throttle a little bit too soon, and here comes Hunter coming into that second to last corner.
Yeah, here we go. These guys just switched this position at this same turn there. You see the 11 car again continuing to struggle there a little bit. He's blinking, but the 8 car and the 13 really struggling right now, Sam, with tire wear, I think, and just hitting these braking zones a little bit too hard, and unfortunately just battling the rear end right now.
I mean, we've been out here racing for that of Tom Sinchak for 27 laps. For Cedric Hunter, 28 laps. They've been green flag racing on these tires. It is wearing down. 3 laps to go. And for these drivers, they've got to run and be aggressive against one another, but at the same time, hoping that there's enough grip that they don't accidentally slide off into the outside wall or into the grass. You've got to be careful, but aggressive at the same time.
Yeah, and it's going to be huge. I mean, especially for the guy that's in front. Oh, and there's the 8 car off track now. Is he going to be able to save it like Cedric? Yes, but these guys almost side by side through the carousel here. But they're going to have to be very careful here. It's late in the race. I know they, one wants the position from the other. But as you said, you certainly don't want to overdrive. Almost 3 wide there. Luckily, that lap car let off huge. But you don't want to take each other out and potentially lose a top 10.
Tyler Dangler going to be that driver that got out of the way, but here comes that of Cedric Hunter to the outside, trying to get by. That of what was known as Champ Tom Sinchak, our Season 1 and 2 champion, getting passed by Season 3 champion of this series. And now it's going to be that of Cedric Hunter up to 4th as Brian Johnson, 2 laps to go, goes through the bus stop and just a few more corners before he gets that white flag.
Yeah, Cedric was not going to be denied by Vincent Sora there. A great run by him. And back up front, it looks like that 11 seconds might be possible. It went from 8 seconds to almost 9 1/4 here now for Brian Johnson, leading Zach Hall. And, of course, Hall about 12 seconds in front of Vincent Sora. So right now I think we're looking at our podium drivers, barring a freak incident out there on the track. But, I mean, what can you say about the 28 car, Brian Johnson? Just a phenomenal run here tonight. Mistake-free, by the way. He stayed out as long as he could before his pit stop, so he knows he's good on fuel, and he takes the white flag one more lap around.
Less than 2.5 miles is for this 28. It's your freaky fast one to go. As right now, Brian Johnson up front leading the way. If you'd like to sponsor the white flag here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, message us on our social medias on Facebook if you would like to be a sponsor for the white flag, as that of Brian Johnson through the bus stop, continuing to show how fast and dominant he was. Maybe coming into tonight, he wasn't the odds-on favorite, but he certainly was one of the top 3 drivers on our list to watch out for. Qualified in 6th position, and now 2 more corners to go for this 28 machine, who had the most wins during Season 3. And coming into the season, the question was, when was he going to get his first win? He got his first one back at the Daytona road course, then got win number 2 last week at Dover. And coming out of the final corner here for the Watkins Glen 150, win number 3 goes to Brian Johnson of Magnitude 9. Congratulations to that of Brian Johnson, a dominating run for himself. And continuing to drive on by, Zach Hall's going to be finding himself in 2nd. And then you got to wait another couple of seconds back where you find that of Vincent Sora finishing out that of 3rd. But we cannot say in conclusion that all the positions where drivers lie is where they're going to stay. Monday night back in the Truck Series, we saw that at Lime Rock final lap, drivers wrecking out, as we're going to be seeing the 8 making the pass there for the finish line. Here comes Mark Whitley for 7th, as well as Nick Crawford is going to be getting 6th place. Brandon, what a race it was, 60 laps down, and Brian Johnson gets the win.
Yeah, dominating fashion for the 28. I know that that's not the finish Mark Whitley wanted, but still, he fell back to 7th, was able to regain focus and kind of bounce back a little bit for a nice top 10. A good run for the 51 of Max Foner. He started P8. He's going to finish P8. Danny Cochran 9th, and then Patrick Hernandez getting a top 10 here. A good run for that Toyota there. But Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? Johnson, Hall, Sora, all dominant in their own fashion. Um, Sora over Cedric Hunter and Tom Senchek, Johnson over Hall. I mean, just a really good run here, and to be honest with you, very impressive run. We only saw, I think, one or two big wrecks that were multi-car incidences, but the rest were just off tracks and things of that nature. So, a really impressive run by these guys.
Absolutely incredible as the 28 Brian Johnson gets to burn it down here on the front stretch. Big congratulations to himself and the Magnitude 9 team that continues to just show their strengths every single race they show up to. But we will be right back here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, talking to our top three: Vincent Sora, Zach Hall, and Brian Johnson, your victor, in just a few here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show for the NAISCC Track Racer Cup Series at Watkins Glen. Great race overall that Brandon Robinson had to take off. So big thanks for Brandon for joining us in the booth. So we'll finish things off here pretty quickly, but we got to start things off with Vincent Sora, third place runner in the 15 machine. A great run for himself. And let's get his thoughts on how the Glen treated for himself. Vincent, it's Sam up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Well, Watkins Glen, it is shown for you to be finishing up in the top two the last two times that you guys have been here in the Cup Series. Third place finish here tonight. But how was it from your point of view?
Pretty tough. I really wanted to battle with Zach there. Unfortunately, though, I didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end, so I had to just super save for the last 20 laps just to make it, and I still barely made it. So that sucks. I really wanted to battle with him. He's one of these just top-notch road course guys, and to be able to beat him and just battle him would be pretty cool. But unfortunately, that didn't get to happen. But I'll take P3 tonight. Good points tonight. Good points for the stage. So yeah, looking forward to the next race.
Now, Vincent, we saw and we kind of noted on it, you and Mark Whitley have both been kind of having bickerings in the Truck Series Monday nights. Here tonight, you both were on top of one another on the entry of the bus stop. What was going through your mind when you saw the 77 move in front of you and you gave him a little bit of a bump?
Just same stuff as always. So this guy, he overdrives to try to beat me and just races way too hard, and that's why he burns his stuff up. Evidently, he's not learning, though, and then, he just jumped over the curb and hit me and then went off in the grass, finally passed him, and he decided to put the bumper to me, so that's all right. I gapped him about 20 or 30 seconds like usual, so, good day.
I mean, Vincent, it's one of those things that seems to just translate. We know you and Mark are having your bickers with one another, and it continues on. Us in the booth, we love it, but we know you on track, it's got to be getting frustrating. But also something that might be getting frustrating, you still haven't gotten a win, but you've been consistent. We got a couple of tracks, Michigan, Las Vegas, then an all-star break. How are you feeling about these next couple of races that are coming up for yourself?
I feel pretty good. You know, consistency is key here, and just building up points for the playoffs to get me through the rounds and to the final four is what I want. And you know, even though I haven't got the win yet, I've shown that I'm here on a weekly basis. I run top 5 every week, so I'll take it. I think you know, hopefully one of these weeks I can get the win and just find that little piece that I'm missing there. But you know, we'll take what we can get.
Absolutely. Well, Vinny, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Brian and Zach for driving a great race tonight. Everybody in the league, all the admins that make it possible, the sponsors, you guys for broadcasting. You guys do a great job, and Danny for the beautiful paint scheme.
That's Vincent Soren, the 15, coming away with a third place finish here tonight, and good luck at Michigan next week.
All right, thank you guys.
And you know, Vincent wanted to run up front and go after Zach Hall. Well, couldn't catch him in time, but Zach Hall, second place runner, will bring him up into the booth. Zach, it's Sam up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Well, Zach, you came in with probably the most pressure once again. Kind of was deemed as the favorite coming into tonight, but kind of you qualified better, but you also found yourself being challenged by Brian Johnson again. How was tonight's race, though, for yourself?
Whoa, man, that was a pressure-packed race. I'm really happy I got the pole there. That was the most critical thing you could do at this racetrack. But one of the most critical things I can't do is get through the S's, and that's one thing Brian can do. And if you can follow through there and stay close to somebody, you can really put the pressure on them. And man, I just got to give everything to him. He drove from wherever he did. I think it was 6th or 5th or whatever he started. I mean, I was feeling pretty good after, those qualifying results came in. I was like, man, if I could just stay up front, run my pace, and I knew I was going to have a barrage of guys coming at me, at the beginning, and it was like that. First had Vinny, then he got past. I think Mark got up there, and from there, I felt like I was going to start to pull away until I saw Brian get there in a second. And I kind of knew what was coming. Just he's so good at this track. You don't have many places to make differences up on people, and with him being so good through the S's, it's really impressive. I just got to give it to him because through a lot of other corners, I feel like I'm better than him. It's just through those S sections where you got to be really, really good to be able to follow and make passes. And he showed it. He worked his way up through the field, and man, definitely. I'm happy to take second though. We did a practice race the night before or on Thursday night, and it was kind of rough for me. Not my best track here for sure, road course wise, but we'll definitely be happy with the performance, leading a few laps out the front, and fighting hard for second.
Yeah, I mean, you've been getting a lot of good, consistent runs here of late. It seemed like here for tonight, the biggest, besides on track passes, pit road was going to be a chance to make some moves. What made you come into pit road, though, on that lap 30 instead of trying to stretch it out any further? Were you running out of fuel, or was there a different factor on why you came in?
Well, the plan was 28. The completion of 28 was my plan from the lead. So that all changed. I probably could have undercut Brian if I'd gone there. And Vinny, talking to him, he was short on fuel supposedly, but I still at the end had plenty of fuel if I would have pitted on 28 instead of 29 there. And I knew Brian was going to hit 30. I knew he was going to get right down the middle and hit pit road there. So I was like, you know what? Why not just go to 29 and hopefully something will work out for me where he gets caught up in traffic, because I just didn't feel like the undercut was going to work from that far back as I was. And it probably would have, looking at where Vinny got up to from where he pitted. So maybe I should have tried that. But at the end of the day, I got to give it up to Brian. He was just the better man out on the racetrack, and he whooped our butts, that's for sure.
Well, Zach, we got ourselves Michigan, Las Vegas, then the All-Star break, and then we go to Nashville for 2 weeks in a row. How are you feeling about these upcoming races and also having a week off before we go to Michigan?
Oh, the week off's gonna be nice. Gonna have Thanksgiving, so it's a good week. Heading up. Very excited for that. Always gonna eat some good food. So definitely gonna be in a food coma till till then. So hopefully, that week off's gonna be good. Michigan, man, not one of my favorite tracks for sure. Just the way it's gonna be. So might not see me around too much in Michigan, but I think some of them other short tracks and other tracks might play into my strong suit here before we get this regular season closed out, man. I'm having consistency, and that's what I want to keep doing. I just want to keep bringing the consistency to these tracks, because that's what it's going to take to get to the Final Four again.
Absolutely. Well, Zach, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Well, first off, shout out to you guys in the booth. Love everything y'all do. It's always great action up, pack stuff up in Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Not only racing out on the track, but being a broadcaster up there. It's a pleasure to call races and be a part of the races. So thank y'all very much. Shout out to my teammate Cedric Hunter. He did a fantastic job to get himself fourth. He did a great job qualifying fifth there. So Heck of a job by him there. I know he came in this race just trying to get a top five, so fourth is definitely going to be a big morale boost for him after Watkins Glen here tonight. So that's good for him. And then shout out to the rest of the league. Did a great job out there. Nobody, really did anything wrong with traffic. I had everybody treated me pretty fairly, I gotta say. So it was a nice night to race out there here tonight at the NAISCC Cup Series. And last but not least, thank the admins as they always put on a great league for us to race here and the structure that's around us. So thank you guys very much, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks in Michigan, I guess.
That's Zach Hall in the 32 machine getting a second place finish here tonight at Watkins Glen. And good luck when we head to Michigan there, Zach.
Thanks, guys.
And that's going to be Zach Hall again. And now bringing up into victory lane, the man with the faces and the man with the plan. It's Brian Johnson getting another win, third win of the season. And Brian, it just seems like you're getting back to that form that you had last season and find yourself in victory lane for a multiple of weeks.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It feels good to, put a couple wins back to back.
Well, Brian, you have swept the road courses. You won back at the Daytona road course. Now you win in here at Watkins Glen. It's got to be feeling good knowing that, hey, you get the road courses done, but at the same time, we got no more road courses for the end of the season. How are you feeling about, though, after tonight? I mean, you didn't have the best qualifying run. You started back in sixth, but you climbed your way forward and was the most dominant car when we started the race into the end.
Yeah, when I came across the start finish line to grab the checker for qualifying and saw where I qualified, it was like fifth, sixth, or seventh, somewhere around there. Yeah, I was pretty worried. I was like, this track, it's really tough to pass. These cars, the dirty air, it's just a whole multitude of things that is not in my favor. So yeah, I was super worried. I was like, okay, Zach's gonna be fast. I'll get, third or fourth here at best. And as the race went on and just passed a few guys here and there, and then really noticed that I was super strong through the S's and those last couple of corners. So I was somehow by a miracle able to set up some passes on some guys. And then once I got to second, I knew Zach was gonna be tough to pass. But then got that done, and then it was just trying to build a lead and manage it and not mess up on the pit stop and keep it clean going through the lap cars, and that's what happened.
I mean, Brian, what a race it was for yourself. But I think the biggest thing we were noting on it, lap traffic seemed to be doing a very good job here tonight of getting out of the way. But from your point of view, how was the lap traffic for yourself?
Oh, I think a lot of these guys deserve some Christmas presents from me from how they were racing me tonight. I mean, it was really good. There was only a couple of guys that I don't think they anticipated me catching them that fast, but it wasn't a big deal. I mean, everybody was super cordial tonight, so no complaints from me on that one.
Well, Brian, 3 wins so far this season. We've got ourselves, the regular season. We're past halfway. We're coming to the closer and closer to the playoffs. But how are you feeling about these next couple of races that are coming up? Michigan, Las Vegas, go to Nashville for 2 weeks. How are you feeling about the next couple of courses?
Well, I knew going into this 4 or 5 week stretch here in the schedule that this was going to be the strongest point of the season for me, and that's that section of the season is now done. So going forward, it's probably going to be back to kind of how it was earlier in the season. So that's why it was super important to perform well in these races. So yeah, I mean, Michigan is going to be rather tough and frustrating. Las Vegas is going to be similar. Nashville, I've never drove there before, either one of those tracks. So that's going to be a learning curve for me. So it's just going to be a matter of trying to do some damage control and try to get as many top fives as possible and try to maintain that points lead.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Well, I got to thank you guys, as always, for putting on such a great show, and then everybody that tuned in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Got to thank all the drivers over here at this league. Everybody's fantastic, and of course, lap cars. Talked about them earlier. Give thanks to them, and then to my teammate Nick. He did pretty well tonight. Raced him a little bit, so give a little shout out to him, and then. Uh, yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's coming up. So hopefully everybody can spend some time with their families and eat some good food. And yeah, well, I think we're gone next week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks and get back to it.
Absolutely. That's Brian Johnson in the 28 machine of magnitude 9, getting the victory here at Watkins Glen for the Watkins Glen 150. Congratulations, Brian, on the victory here tonight, and good luck in 2 weeks at that in Michigan.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we're now going to take a look at our final results. Again, big thanks to that of Brandon Robinson. He had to make an emergency getaway at the end, but big thanks for him joining me up at the booth for tonight's race at Watkins Glen. But as we take a look at our final results, crazy to think, Brian Johnson, again, qualified back in 6th, carved his way forward with about the first 15 laps, found himself up front past Zach Hall and never looked back. Second place goes to Zach Hall, Vincent Sora in 3rd, Cedric Hunter in 4th place, Thompson Check in 5th, Nick Crawford going to be in 6th with Mark Whitley in 7th. Hey, Brandon brought it up. Felt like he was lucky on the fact that he did not get required repairs. Well, he finished in 7th. He's the 77. Found the luck for himself with that amongst Max Foner, Danny Cochran, and Patrick Hernandez finishing out that of the top 10. Mauricio Million got 11th. Solid run for that of the 44. Almost made the pass on the 19, but stayed in 11th for himself. And you look at some of the other drivers that of note. Kyle Rochelle really didn't get the drive that he wanted. Aaron Kralik in 17th really didn't get a run either. James Tremmel had a weak night tonight. Ethan Smith was really struggling, but I think it's Sean Hutzstutler in the 94. Biggest surprise in my eyes for where he landed. Going to be last and one of the second drivers to DNF of the night. Only 25 drivers that raced here. That was your end unofficial results. But for us here tonight, what a race it was. 60 laps green flag racing. But we are going to have next week off because of Thanksgiving. But then we'll be back in 2 weeks. Michigan, that is going to be very chaotic racing. Drivers are going to have to utilize the draft, dirty air, side drafting. It's going to be a melee on who can survive that course. And I cannot wait to see. I will not be in the booth for that one. Brandon and our guest, whoever our guest co-host will be joining Brandon for that race. It's going to be incredible racing. Can't wait to watch that one. 2 weeks for that. But for tonight, to finish out the call, we got to throw it over to our producer, Robert Moyer, to finish out the call. And thanks for joining us here tonight. Robert, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody out there, for tuning in here tonight. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed the show here at Watkins Glen. A little bit of road racing. Congratulations to Brian Johnson, and then congratulations to Zach Hall and everybody else finishing all the way down through the field. It's tough, man, when you come to road course racing. You know, you just gotta fight through the battle, and some people are really good at it. Some people are still learning, and some people just do it just to get the points, like these guys talked about here tonight. But it was awesome, and hopefully everybody enjoyed the show. Like Sam said and Brandon said, and then also in the interviews, you know, coming up the next week is going to be Thanksgiving week. If you come back and watch this replay here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, and the crew here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting like to say to everybody out there that tunes in and supports us, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with the family. Don't eat too much. Enjoy the good food of whatever type of food that you like. Turkey, ham, duck, goose, whatever it would be that you eat, and hopefully you enjoy it. Enjoy the family time. As we all remember last year, we didn't have Thanksgiving. Well, we did, but not with family, like we were going to be able to get back to our normal state of mind and everything that we do here. So our next televised broadcast is not going to be maybe Wednesday. I got to find out if we have one Wednesday, but I think we are off for a whole week. So hopefully everybody enjoys next week. Don't work too hard. Enjoy your vacation if you have some, but we'll catch you in 2 weeks. But until then, we here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting like to say to everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the holidays, and we're going to say, as we always do here, God bless everybody. We love you all. Peace out.